Okay, so let's look at the two problems you sent. The first one is just straight factoring the trinomial, and it says, or it could be prime, which would mean it won't be factorable. So there's a couple of different ways you can approach this. So basically, we're going to break this up into two binomials, and you can do guess and check, which is okay. A lot of students aren't crazy about it, but what you would do is, this is the first two part of the two factors, and so you really only have one option here, 11x and x. Now, if that would have been like a 12x, then you could break it up into 6 times 2 or 3 times 4. But 11, you're only going to get 11 from 11 times 1 in this example here. And then this is for the last two. You got to figure out a way to multiply to get -2, but then the outer and inner have to add up to -21. And so it looks like the -2 would go here and the +1 would go here. And that's going to be the answer right there. If you were to look at the inner, you'd get 1x and -22x, which gives you the -21 in the middle. Okay, so that's guess and check, which I like to use it sometimes, but if you watch the videos, I have this other way of doing it. So let's go ahead and look at that. It's a little bit more of a process than here where you're kind of guessing and kind of hoping for the best. Okay, so and if you look in the notes, I have all the directions written down for this. So what you want to do is multiply the outside edges, the 11 times -2, which is -22. That that's the step one. That's not too bad. Okay, step two is you take the middle number, put it right here, okay? And then what I'm looking for is I'm looking for two numbers. We'll call them A and B. I could call them whatever, A and B, where they multiply to give me -22, but those numbers also add to give me -21. So I am playing a little bit of a guessing game here, but it shouldn't be too bad. Multiply to give me -22, so that means the two numbers, one's positive, one's negative, but then it has to add to give me -21. So that's going to have to be a -22 and oops, and +1. So those are the numbers that satisfy the condition here. Satisfies this condition. You multiply it, it's -22. You add them together, it adds to -21. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to replace this middle part right here with those two numbers. Okay, so now I'm going to have 11x squared, and then I'm going to have -22x, then I'll have a +1x. And it doesn't matter, I could have put the +1 first and then the -22. It doesn't make a difference. And then let's see, then we have -2. And so what I want you to see here is, see, this is the same thing as -21x. I just broke it up into a -22 plus 1, which is the same thing as -21. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do factor by grouping. So you're going to factor something out of the first two and something out of the second two. On the first two, I'm going to factor out an 11x. So I factor out an 11x, and that'll leave us behind with x minus 2. And that's weird. I already have x minus 2 right here. So what I'm going to factor out here is really just an understood 1, and then that will leave me with an x minus 2. And then what we'll do here is we're going to factor out the x minus 2. So x minus 2. And then we're going to have 11x plus 1. And there we go. So it's the same answer I have up here. It's just in a different order, right? It's in a different order. As you can see, this took a lot longer, but once you do it a bunch of times, it moves fairly quickly, and you have the pattern down, and you'll do them really quickly. So, but it's up to you. If you like guess and check, that'd be fine too. Okay, so you sent another one that's very similar to this one. The only difference is that we'll flip over. Let's see. It has that equal sign. So if you look here, the original problem doesn't have an equal sign. There's one right here just showing that, your answer is equivalent, right? But there is no equal sign in the original question, okay? And so here there is in the original question. So what's different about this one is first you have to set it equal to 0. You need it in the format ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So you have to move everything to one side. And so I like to keep my squared value positive. And so I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. I'll do it in 2 steps. So let's see, that'll give us 2x squared minus 7x equals, then I still have 30. And then I'll go ahead and subtract 30 from both sides. And so then I have 2x squared minus 7x minus 30 equals 0. So now I've got it set equal to 0. Now what we want to do is we want to factor it just like we did on the previous example I just did. But what you want to realize is that, you're really trying to figure out what makes this equal 0. But in order to do that, you have to be able to factor it first, okay? And so you could do guess and check if you like. I'm going to go ahead and do the process that I showed you on the previous example. So 2 times negative 30 is negative 60. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is take the number in the middle. And so what you want to do is find 2 numbers that multiply to give you negative 60. But then those 2 numbers add to give you negative 7. And so if you want to, you can grab a calculator and just start dividing 60 by 2. Now look, the larger number is going to be negative because it has to add to a negative. So 2 goes into 60 30 times. So 2 times negative 30 is negative 60, but it does not add to negative 7. Let's see, 3 divides into negative 60 20 times, but that doesn't add to negative 7. Let's see, 4 goes into 60 15 times. See, that adds to negative 11. Let's see, 5 goes into negative 60 12 times. 5 times negative 12 is negative 60. 5 plus a negative 12 is negative 7. So that is going to work right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to split that into a 5x and a minus 12x. So that's what we'll do here. So I still have my 2x squared. Then I have plus 5x minus 12x and then minus 30 equals 0. And once again, it doesn't matter what order the 5 and the minus 12 are. If you switch the order, you'll get the same answer. Okay, so then on the first set, the only thing I can factor out, looks like, is an x. So I'll go ahead and do that. So that'll leave me with 2x plus 5. And then on the second set, I can, well, this is kind of interesting. So I have a minus 12x minus 30, and I need it to become a positive 2x plus 5. So what I'm going to have to factor out of that is a negative 6, a minus 6. I'm going to factor that out. So I'm going to divide both of those by negative 6. So it turns this to a positive 2x, and then minus 30 divided by negative 6 would turn that to a plus 5. And you can always check that if you were to multiply that back in. We don't want to go backwards, but if you want to just make sure you got it correct, you can see that if you multiply the negative 6, you go back to our previous step. And then what we want to do here now is factor out the 2x plus 5. So I factor out the 2x plus 5, and that will leave us with an x minus 6 equals 0. Now see, what's different on this problem is, see, I'm actually trying to figure out what makes this equal 0. Well, these are getting multiplied together, and 0 times any number is going to equal 0. So it could be the number times 0 is equal to 0, right? So what I do is I take each one of these factors and I set them equal to 0 and solve. So take each one of these, set them equal to 0 and solve. And so let's see, 2x equals negative 5, divide by 2. So one of my answers, I'll put it over here, x equals negative 5 over 2. And then the other one's a lot easier. Just add 6, x equals 6. So those are my 2 answers to this question up here. Okay, so that was quite a bit, right? So I had to I had to set it equal to 0 first. Okay, and then once I did that, I had to factor it. And if you're interested in that factor by grouping, that's fine. Go for it. It can be a little frustrating at times, but you can try it if you'd like. But this is more of a kind of step-by-step way of doing it. And from my experience, that's kind of the preferred way that students will complete this. So, all right. Well, I hope this helps you out.